my beautiful pearls. How is everyone doing on this beautiful, beautiful Monday? Today is an amazing day. I woke up in the morning and I felt, you know, sometimes we get caught up with life that we totally forget to be thankful and to be grateful and to show appreciation to everything around us. So today I woke up in the morning and that's exactly what I wanted to do. I just wanted to let people who are part of my life know how much I appreciate them and how much I am really grateful for having them in my life. So this is exactly what I did this morning. And I hope that this is something that, you know, gives you a push to also let the people around you know what you really feel for them and how important they are for you in your life. I know we don't do this very often. We don't really appreciate the things that we have very often. Even if we do, sometimes we miss saying it. So today I just woke up in the morning and that's exactly what I wanted to do, and I did that. So I hope that you can do the same as well. So that's how my morning was, and my day has been quite busy as well. And I just finished reading something very interesting to me, and now I'm totally focused with you. Today we're going to be together for around, like as usual, between 45 minutes and 1 hour, depending on how much I feel like I really, really want to talk. And at the end of the live today, I have an invitation for you. So stick around and you can get to know what the invitation is for. Today's topic is about change mainly. Change is a word that, is very broad, and we say it a lot of times, but we don't really kind of stop on it. So before I dive deep into what change is, or at least what change means to me and how I dealt with change in my life, I want to share a story with you. So I was born in a country where socially there are a lot of restrictions and a lot of no, a lot of taboos, a lot of topics that we don't really talk about. And my parents are from they have quite an old mentality. And when I say old, I don't really mean old by age. I mean old by practice, old by kind of they've inherited things from generations and generations before them. I'd like to think that if my parents had choices, just like we do today, or like the new generation has today, I'd like to think that they would have done a lot of changes to their lives. And I actually think that they have up to a certain point, with the limitations that they had when they were growing up, or when they were, kind of in that age where you become that revolutionary person and you just want to make a change and you want to do things differently. But sometimes, even if you are in those shoes, you get stuck with things that have been engraved in your mind and in your like social surrounding, in your DNA, in everything that you do. And you get stuck with these ideas, and you get stuck with these I like to call them dilemmas. Well, for me they are dilemmas, because I don't think for my dad they were, because my dad is the main character in this story that I'm telling you right now. So I remember growing up, I remember hearing him say, and my dad is, just to give you an idea, my dad is a principal, a school principal. And he used to be a teacher before that. And all his life he's been in those one of these two positions, either a teacher or a principal. And his ego, if I want to say ego, I mean his personality, let's not say ego, his personality is quite strong, and he has a lot of restrictions that he has built around his personality because of what he used to do, and because he needed that kind of authority figure to be his figure while he was in his work environment. The only thing is that my dad took his work environment everywhere he went, because he was very famous in his kind of entourage and in our family, and even around, because he used to be also involved one way or another in, I don't want to say politics, but more like social reforms related to education, because he used to be in the education industry, obviously. So my dad, because he had this authority figure, and because he had this, you know, personality, this huge personality, he still has it, by the way. It's not like he changed, which is the topic of today. And the reason being that my dad really believes that people's characters, like when they are born, they build this character, and that character sticks with them till the last day of their life. And this is where our topic really lies today. I used to believe the same, because I was brought up thinking this way. I was brought up being told that people's characters always prevail when change happens, or prevail when there's a possibility for change. And even if people change for some like small period of time, their nature, which is the character, is always going to prevail. So at any given point in time, that change will simply stop, and they will come back to who they have always been, that character that they have built, that they have put together throughout their life, throughout their conditioning, throughout their experience. So that character that they've built, or that even was built with them, it's not necessarily that they have built it. Sometimes it's also a character that was imposed on us or on people in general, and they kind of just live with it. So my dad is a firm believer that people don't change. People's character is always going to prevail. It's always going to come back, no matter how much we try, no matter how much we do, no matter how much we evolve. In my dad's mind, we will always go back to that character that we have built throughout the years. And I totally lived believing that. I totally lived not just believing that, I was literally abiding by this rule. So if people would come to me and tell me, Maysoon, you know, you can change this, you can become better at this, or you can just forget to do things this way and maybe try to do them in a different way, because if you do them differently, you would feel better, the results would be better, you know, things would be different for you. And I would always say, no, it's, you know, my character will always prevail, my personality will always prevail. I can never change who I am. I used to say that. I used to say, no, this is how I am, this is how I'm born, you know, and this attitude of it's either my way or the highway. I used to have that attitude. And today, when I look at people who have this kind of attitude, I really, really feel, I don't want to say I feel sorry for them, but I really feel like I wish they would go through that process that I went through to get them out of this, because I truly believe that this is a dilemma that people go through. And a lot of us don't really, how to put it, like, we don't really know that this is what we're going through. Because most of the time, as we are experiencing our life, the fact that there is so much happening around us, the fact that there is a lot of imposition that we are going through from society, from family, from friends, from partners. So we feel like everything is being imposed on us at some point in time. We feel that. At other points in time, we feel like, no, I mean, I've struggled enough. I've done so much to be who I am. I've built my character over the years. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. Lucky, okay. Hello. Please leave it at the door. Don't knock the door. Thank you. Okay, Lucky. I like when something like this happens, you know, you cannot help it. When you're doing these lives from home and you had ordered something on Amazon, this is the result. And you have a dog who really, really, really wants you to be safe. So I was saying, you know, we've built our character. Okay, Lucky, thank you. We've built our character throughout our life, and we have kind of struggled somehow to get to where we are. We've done so much. We've been through a lot to reach the character, or even not just the character. I mean, the character is part of it. Sorry. Lucky, can you please stop? Thank you. So we've been through a lot to become who we are, right? And the fact that we have done that, and someone coming to us and telling us, hey, maybe if you change, things will be better. Of course, it's not going to be easy for us to just, you know, accept something like that, or accept being told that we can be better by anyone. Because in our mind, we know better, right? We know who we. I'm really sorry for this. Lucky, stop, please. Come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Welcome to my life. Maybe this is something I should change when I'm doing my lives. Let's see. Next time, remind me. Sorry for that again. Lucky, stop it. Okay. So, I was saying, when somebody comes to us and tells us that there's something that maybe we should change about who we are, most of the time we're not receptive of this idea. I know I wasn't. I know when my brother came to me and told me, hey, listen. Sorry. Okay, Lucky, okay. I know, thank you. I know, Lucky. Stop. Thank you. Enough. Thank you. Oh my God. Again, maybe I should change that. Either that or the timing. Or never order anything before my life. Well, I ordered it 2 days ago. But anyway, going back to our topic. I remember a few years ago, maybe, I think it was in 2009. My brother came to me and he was like, Maysoon, you know, I admire you. You have a really strong personality and you come across as a very strong woman. But you know, men are not really very receptive of someone who is that strong and who comes across like a masculine woman, and maybe you want to be a little bit lenient and stuff like that. So I was like, really? No, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to change who I am. There's no way I can change who I am. And I used to remember what my dad would always say, that character is always going to win over any change that you try to make in who you are or in yourself. So for me, it was like, no, I'm not going to change. I don't want to change. And I don't want to change because I want, for example, to have a man in my life or something like that. I don't care. And I am who I am. They either like it or they don't. That was me. And I have to say, I still believe that I am that strong woman. I still believe that I have that same character, but what happened is that I understood a lot of things around who I was, where I was, and the change that I actually made was not a change in my character. I made a change in understanding who I was, in understanding my inner person, my inner personality, my own thoughts, my own ideas, my own beliefs. And this is actually what changed, not my character. So change basically does not have to be like someone completely changing who they are. I know I haven't changed who I am. I'm still that same person. I'm still that person with a strong personality. I'm still that person who is in her masculine when I need to be in my masculine energy. And I am also now, because before I didn't know that there was these two energies. I didn't know that there was this masculine energy and there was this feminine energy, and the balance is where things are beautiful. The balance is where things are happening for us in our lives. I didn't know that. Back then, I was really living in my masculine most of the time. But now I understand how different it is to be living in your masculine and completely, totally ignoring your feminine, or the other way around, living in your feminine and completely and totally ignoring your masculine. Like everything else in life, everything is about balance. And when we're talking about these two energies that we all have as human beings, it's not about me as a woman. I have a masculine and I have a feminine. Irrelative of the gender, we all have these two energies, and the balance that we have in these two energies is what makes our lives more harmonious and more in sync. I like to call it. So when my brother told me that I needed to change, back then I didn't understand what he meant, and I didn't really find a reason for me to do that. But then fast forward few years, maybe not just few years, a lot of years, or like we're talking about maybe 6 or 7 or even 8 years later, when I started realizing that I have patterns in my life that are not changing, they keep on happening over and over again, and things that I knew back then were harmful to me, and I knew they were causing me a lot of issues. I just didn't know what they were and how to get out of those. That's when I started going inside and I started digging in my own being. Because, when we live our life as a, how do I say it, as a viewer, we are always looking at things and not realizing what's happening. And we're always trying to also, not just that, we're always trying to put the blame on others and point fingers. It's not me, I was brought up this way, or my mom used to do this so now I do it, or my dad used to do that so now I do that, or this is how I was raised, this is how everyone in the family does things, or this is how the whole society is brought up so I just follow the society. We always have this blame game that we play throughout our life. And only when we start digging and when we start like looking at ourselves in the mirror and try to understand why we do things the way we do them. Why do I, like for me, why did I even used to follow what my dad used to say about change? Why did I always think that no way, I will never change who I am, or I could never change who I am? For me, it was also like, how can I do it? It's impossible for anyone to change, because that mentality was like, it was so engraved in my brain that no matter what I do, I'm not going to be able to change who I was. But now I completely disagree with that. But again, it's not about changing who you are. It's about actually understanding who you are. And the minute you start really understanding who you are, change is inevitable. Because when you understand who you are, you start realizing how much of room for development there is, how much there is, like how many opportunities there are for you to become even a better person than who you already are. And like I always say, I truly believe every person is divine and every person is good. Like in their essence, every person is good. The way we go through our life, the way life imposes things on us, which is not really the case, because it's always what we reflect or what we think of. It just happens. But because of all the conditioning and all the things that we go through in our life, we start believing that this is it. And we start living it the way it's been, imposed or conditioned or given to us. But the minute we start thinking and opening those drawers or those files, let's call them files, inside of our being, and we start digging in those files to understand the real origin of the way we think or the way we behave. And from there, the minute we start asking all these questions, the answers that we get are what's going to get us to move from one place, which I like to call this place of stagnation, because when we refuse to accept that we can make things better for us or that we can change things in us, because when you change things in you, in who you are, this will reflect in your life. Because who you are is about your thoughts, is about your feelings, is about your behavior, is about everything about you. So the minute you start digging inside and understanding the kind of limitations that you've had for so many years, and you start understanding that these limitations may have been hindering you. Of course, they're called limitations, so of course they have been hindering you, and they have been stopping you, and they have putting your life on pause so many times, and sometimes on rewind, because you keep on doing the same things over and over and over again, and you feel like, what is happening in my life? Why is this happening in my life? And you go into that vicious circle again and again and again, and you start repeating yourself, you start repeating your mistakes, you start repeating not just your mistakes, everything that you do becomes a repetitive action. Everything, whether it's a mistake or even a good thing, it just becomes a repetitive action. There's no extra stuff. There's no room for something additional. There's no room for something, for some improvement. There's no room for surprises in your life, because you're stuck just doing things over and over and over again, because in your mind you truly believe that you cannot change, or you truly believe that this is the only choice. But let me tell you something, it's not. It's not the only choice that you have, and it is certainly something that is within your own power to do. That is to get out of that vicious circle. And it's a simple exercise, which is simply starting by going deep inside and asking yourself the big questions. And the big questions are always those questions where you are questioning things about your life, things about how you do things in your life. You start questioning your behavior. You start questioning your feelings. You start questioning your reactions to things. And those three, your behavior, your feeling, and your reaction, those three are so connected that these are the traits of your personality. This is who you are. This is your personality. Your feelings, your emotions, how you do things, your reaction to things. This is who you are. So when you start asking these questions, it's like you're going into a biology class and you start dissecting every single thing that you've been through in your life. You start dissecting why you do things the way that you do them. And the why question is always very, very major, and it takes us to places where sometimes we try not to go, because sometimes these places are quite painful when we start realizing what we have been through to become who we are today. And it's happened to all of us. It's not like some people never had these issues in their lives, or some people, just grew up happy and amazing, and life is just happening for them in such an amazing way. Every single person. Like, I don't like to generalize, but I truly believe that we all go through so much in our lives, from the minute we are born to the minute I like to use the word arise, because when I say arise, I don't mean leave this planet. I don't mean leave this body that we have. I mean arise in our head and like wake up. That's what I mean by arise. So the minute we wake up, and we all do at one given point in our life, we all do. We do it in different ways. Everyone does it differently. But we all reach this point where we start wondering, and we start asking ourselves the big questions, like, why do I do things the way that I do them? Why is it that I'm not willing to change? Or why is it that I'm only willing to change because I'm doing it for someone? Because we always also do that. And we blame it on change. We say, I've changed myself because I wanted to please, let's say, I don't know, my husband, or I wanted to please my friends, or I wanted to please my father or my mother, and I changed everything about me just so that they are happy, ignoring the one person who has to be the center of all of this, which is you and me. If I want to change, and this is the number one thing that I want you to remember about moving forward, about letting yourself grow, about letting yourself change. Basically, it's just you understanding that change has to be your choice. It has to be something that you want to do, something that you choose to do, not because someone wants it from you, and not because you feel like you need to do it for the society or for I don't know what. Change is something that you want to choose from within. And when you choose change from within, that change is going to be very specific, and it's going to be like, it's gonna go in a very, very specific direction. It's not like you choosing to, I don't know, like change your wardrobe, or okay, today I'm gonna change and I'm gonna become vegan, or I'm gonna become a vegetarian. These are changes that are maybe the apparent changes, but in the core of those changes, there's something amazing happening. There is you diving deep inside and understanding who you are and where you are, and even where you want to be. Because when you start asking these questions, you don't just ask, like, why am I doing this? Or why do I keep on doing this? You also ask, where do I want to go? Who do I really want to be? Is this really my life? Is this really going to be how I'm going to live my life? Is this really going to be where I'm going to live my life? With whom I'm going to live my life with? Is this it? Because when you start asking these questions, and then the more you dig, the more you get familiar with the things that you have been through. Because normally you don't know. Normally they're so hidden in your memories, they're so hidden in your DNA, they're so hidden in every single cell of your body knows what you have been through and is living its life because you have been through what you have been through. And because you're not questioning, because you're not having those question marks in your head, you keep living that life the way it is, or the way you're living it. But when you start digging and you start remembering, because you know it all, by the way, you know everything about you, you know everything about your decisions, you know everything about what you have been through, and even the things that have been imprinted in you, like you've inherited them, Maybe consciously you don't know them, but in your subconscious mind, you know it all. And when you start allowing your consciousness or your conscious mind to dig into that huge part of our being or huge part of our mind, which is our subconscious mind, and you start digging and understanding how things have formulated for you in your life, why, where, when, because of what, then you start going in that inner digging that I like to call. It's like you just go inside. And in my post I said, if you're already there, kudos to you, right? Because you already are doing the work. You're already digging to understand where you are and how things are happening for you and how you can make things happen for you even better, if you haven't been there yet, if you haven't reached that state yet. But if you're not there at all, like if you haven't even started digging yet, then maybe this will be an eye-opener for you to start asking yourself these questions. Like, why am I who I am? And is who I am really who I want to be? Like, because when I asked myself these questions, I was actually surprised by the answer, because I've always thought that, yes, this is who I want to be. I want to be that person. I'm like, my pride was over the moon, because, I was so proud to even think that I want to change myself. And when I realized that I wanted to change, I realized that I wanted to change, or I wanted to make that change for me. It wasn't for anyone. It wasn't for anything in specific. It was just for me, because the way I had been living my life, the way I had been running my life, the way I had been allowing things to happen in my life was so toxic and was so hurtful to me. I was hurt and I was hurting, and my whole life was like a series of miserable situations that I used to put myself in because I didn't know better, and because I thought that, it is what it is, and I am who I am, and I'm not going to change for anyone. I'm not going to change for anything. And I am, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm going to take the consequences of everything that I do. Sometimes those consequences, I have to tell you, they were really, really drastic ones. And I don't want to go through that again. So when I decided that, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to choose me before anything and before anyone. I'm going to choose me, and I'm going to focus on me, and I'm going to become the best version of me that I can possibly be. And only then I started asking the huge questions. So how am I going to be that best version of me? What is it that I'm going to do? Am I going to just sit and wait for things to happen for me? Or am I going to just grab it and go for it and start digging and start asking and start fixing things for me? Because that's exactly what I did. I started digging, I started asking, I started understanding where all these limitations in my brain were coming from. And some of them were from my dad, yes. because he used to say this and it was engraved in my mind. True. But some of them had nothing to do with my dad. Some of them had a lot to do with how I was leading my life, and I was totally convinced that I was doing the right thing. I was totally convinced that my way was the right way until I wasn't. And look, maybe sometimes things happen for us. We want them to happen. That's something that I want to make sure that I always say that. Nothing happens to us in our lives. Nothing. It always happens for us. Whether we know it or not, sometimes we are doing it subconsciously. And I always talk about, when we start thinking of moving forward or of developing, and how our brain, or our ego to be more specific, starts telling us stories that, no, hey, where are you going? And it starts like, your ego is always going to try to protect you, right? And what your ego is protecting you from is not a drastic thing. It's not horrible. What your ego is trying to protect you from is just the things that your ego doesn't even know. Like, it's the unknown. And the unknown, because it's the unknown, it's scary for the ego to think, oh my God, where are you going? No, what if? What if? And you start telling yourself those, like, what if negative stories that we always tell ourselves just because we are afraid. And the fear is the one thing that will always block you. Fear is always that thing that will make you press the brakes and say, you know what? No, I'm not doing this, because God knows what is out there. What is out there is what you want to be out there. What is out there is always your choice. And your choice starts with you knowing, you doing that inner travel, that inner discovery, that inner digging to understand really who you are and where you want to be. And in between, what happened throughout your life? Where did you get all those limitations from? Because when you start knowing these points or these details about you, and you put them out there, you start figuring things out. It's very simple. It's very simple. It's like, I like to compare it to mathematics, right? So if you want to do mental calculations, if you're good at it, that's amazing. But if not, if you're like me, you would want to put everything on paper, and you would want to go through them one by one and, like, visualize them and understand what's happening so that you can get the results. It's the same thing with understanding who you are really deep down inside. And when you do that, when you go through that understanding, this is where you start realizing that change is inevitable. Because if you want better things for you, for your life, if you want better things for who you are, you will go through change. Only now you're doing it for you. Only now you understand why you're doing it. And you have a really, really, really very good, very valid reason to do it. And that reason is you. That reason is who you want to be. It's your imprint on this planet. It's your signature. It's why you are here. It's why you came here. So the minute you start finding those answers, you will change like instantly. The change will start literally instantly. And the one thing is that sometimes you don't know it. You don't actually realize that you're going through that change. You start noticing people around you telling you stuff, or maybe changing the way they do things around you, or the way they approach you, or the way they talk to you, or the way they like you or dislike you. People's behaviors start changing because you are changing. And that's exactly the same. If you don't change, those people will stay who they are, and they will stay. And I'm not talking about the people themselves. I'm talking about the whole, like, situations. And this is why when we go through life, a lot of times we we sieve, right? I think that's the word. We sieve people in our life. So we have so many people around. I know I did a lot when I was going through the different seasons of my life. Every season has its own specifics, and those specifics include people, because this is what we want in that very specific season of our lives. Like, for example, in college, I want a very specific kind of person to be my friend. That person might not necessarily be the right person for me when I get way much older. I might need a different kind of personality. I might need a different kind of friend who can give me a different kind of support, because that's all depending on the season of my life. But when you are aware, and that's the word that these days I like to use this word a lot, because it's very, very, very important. Most of the time we live our lives without being aware, because of everything that is happening around us, because of how fast things are moving around us, and because of how much we have been conditioned through our life to just follow what's happening around us, instead of having our own stamina, instead of having our own, push. So when we are going through that digging exercise, when we are going through that understanding of, when we are going deep inside, instead of staying in the shallow and in that vicious circle of us repeating things over and over again, when we start digging and getting those big questions that need really big answers, they will have big answers. And those big answers will be those, like, such eye openers to so many things in our life. And then, like I said, instantly you start noticing that change, and the people around you will start telling you. They will start telling you. They will start saying, "You have changed. You've become a different person." But let me remind you, you haven't become a different person. You're the same person still. You're just more aware now. And because you are more aware, your direction is different. Your wants are different. Your choices are different, because now you actually have the choice to do things the way that you want to do them, without having to go back to that character that my father thinks will prevail all the time. You can become a new person with the same values, with the core values are there. Now you're just nurturing them. First of all, you're realizing that you have them, because a lot of time we don't really know what are the values that we have. We don't really know how many values and how much value we bring to this earth, to this plane that we live in, to the society where we are, to all our surrounding. And when we start doing that digging, when we start figuring things out, and we leave that vicious circle and we start to be more centralized within ourselves, everything else starts changing for us. And when things start changing, I'd like to think that they will change to the better, but like everything in life, there are always those exceptions. And those exceptions are caused by really what we are thinking. They're caused really by our thoughts. Are we in the right thinking pattern? Are we making the right thoughts? Are we choosing the right thoughts? Are we choosing the right words? Are we really reflecting the right things that we want for us in our lives? Or are we just still, how do I say it? Under that anesthetic? Are we still numb because of how we have been brought up, because of the society around us, because of the limitations that have been imposed on us by so many different causes? It's not just our parents. For those who always blame their parents, it's not always their fault. And I actually think that if we really, really want to dig and we really, really want to understand things, it's actually our choice. It might sound a little bit too much that, you might come and say, well, Maysoon, I was like a baby. How is this my choice? I truly believe that when I decided to be here as a soul, I knew what I was doing. I knew where I was coming. But then, like I say, when we arrive, when we are born, we're this tabula rasa, they call it in psychology. Our brain is like a complete whiteboard. We don't remember anything. And because maybe we do actually, but because we're still not familiar with expression, and we don't know what to say, we don't know how to say things, and then things start happening around us and we're picking up, we're learning, we're taking on board, and that tabula rasa it fills up quite quickly. And once it fills up, there's no more room for anything new. So we kind of tend to forget why we chose this, why we are here. And when we remember, just like what happened with me, I remembered that when I was 5 years old, I used to say it. It never crossed my mind. I never understood why I used to say that. I always used to say that I am here I'm here on a mission. I want people to learn. This is what I used to say. I was 5 years old. I said, I'm going to teach people a lot of things. I didn't know back then what it meant. I didn't know what those lots of things are. But then, when I started my journey, And when I started digging, and it all happened because I was looking at my life and thinking, why am I doing this to myself over and over and over again? Why am I procrastinating? Why do I think that everything needs to be perfect? Why do I keep on doing the same mistakes over and over again? Why do I have my heart broken over and over again? Why do I allow people in my life who will hurt me? And I'm not talking about partners. I'm talking about all sorts of people, like friends, acquaintances, business partners, you name it. So when I started asking myself these questions, then I remembered that I'm here on a mission, and that was my learning path. That was my way of teaching myself everything that I needed to know to be here today. And that's where my change started. And that's where I accepted the fact that, yes, I can change. I am actually here to change. I came to change. That's the main reason why I came. I came to change myself, and I came to help people understand or realize that they too can change. Only if it is their own choice, only if they are doing it for themselves. Not doing it to please others, not doing it to defy others. Because sometimes we think that, okay, I'm gonna change because, like, if someone tells us, you cannot change, we take it as a challenge. No, I can't change. And then we try, we go through the process, but then we fall back again. Why? Because we're not doing it for the right reasons. We're not taking that step for why we really want to do that. And that why it should be something really strong. And I don't want to say something, I want to say someone who is stronger and who is more important in this life for you than you. I tell you, no one. Because when you start from you, everything else will reflect in that very specific way. So if you keep, I'll give you a very simple note, and I want you to experience it, try it for yourself. If you are always in that mindset that tells you that you cannot do things, that if you do things you will fail, if this is everything that you are thinking about all the time, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think you're going to win? If everything that you are thinking of is failure, how do you think you're going to win? On the other hand, if everything that you think of all the time is success, is happiness, is joy, it will show in your life, it will show on your face, it will show in your eyes, it will show that this is your core, this is who you are. And I'm not saying this as in you like thinking it once or twice. No, this becomes who you are. It becomes your life. It becomes everything about you. So when you are it's an embodiment. It's not something that, is happening on the side. It's you literally embodying this thought, these thoughts, these feelings, these ideas. And the minute that you do, they become your life. They become who you are. And that, my friends, is inevitable. Sometimes there will be hurdles. Sometimes there will be what do you call them, blocks in your way. And those blocks are there again because there's something to learn. In that block, in that trip on the way, when you're tripping and you're falling, that fall has a lesson for you. That fall is going to teach you something. So take it on board and remember, why are you creating this? Why is this trip important? Why is this fall important? What am I learning? What do I need to understand from this? How is this helping me to become a better person? You see how big those questions are? You see how wide we think they are wide, actually. I personally don't think they are wide. I think they are very, very specific questions. When you start asking them, you will know how specific they are the minute you start asking them by the answers that you will get. And the more you know, the more you dig, the more you understand, the easier that change becomes. And the easier that change not becomes, the easier it starts taking effect, because it's already happening. The minute you start asking those questions, that change is already happening. So this, my friends, is the difference between us believing that this is nature and this is who we are and this is how we were born, and nothing is able to change our character, or our character will never change, because our character will always prevail over adaptability or over change, versus nurture, which is us understanding where we are, understanding who we are, understanding our limitations, and developing ourselves and nurturing ourselves and nurturing our thoughts, our ideas, the actions, our behaviors, and changing those to adapt to really who we want to be. And remember, it's who we want to be. Because who we are, again, up to a certain point in time, when we start digging and start asking, who we are is always something that has a lot of seasoning from the surrounding, from the family, from the society, from our ancestors, from previous timelines we have been through. And when we start asking, and when we start digging, and when we start moving from that who we are to who we really want to be, or who we really came here to be, that's where the nurture starts. That's exactly what happened with me. I was so focused on being me, and that me was that me who knows it all, that me who has, nothing can change me, and I am who I am, whether you like it or you either like it or you don't, and if you don't, tough luck. Just me saying those, can't you hear the difference in the attitude? Would you want to be friends or even around someone who is always thinking this way, or is always putting themselves in that ranking, if I may call it this way? Or do we want to be around people who are more aware? If you want to be around someone who is more aware, then you also want to be aware. You also want to be that person. And when you start that journey, when you start this pathway. And when you start, and when change happens, you will see that it happens not just for you, it is happening for you, and the result is going to be manifesting in everything around you in your life. The people that you know will change. The way people deal with you will change, because now in your mind you're no longer that person who is always thinking that, I'm on a different level, or I'm a victim. You are now that person who is aware, and that awareness is going to get you that very specific level of awareness in other people as well. So you will kind of attract them. That simple. It's that simple. So having said that, I know we've been a little bit more than an hour, and I promised you we're not going to take too long, but with Amazon and my dog and everything, so I just felt like, I want to give you a little bit more. So having said that, I hope that today I gave you like a little bit of a trigger to start considering in your life if you are on that path. And if you're not, maybe you want to think about where you are and maybe where you want to be. Are you in that place where you are stuck? Are you in that place where you are procrastinating? Are you in that place where you are, turning around in that vicious circle of doing the same things over and over and over and over again, and never feeling any different or never experiencing any change? Are you that person who thinks that they are here, they know there's something special for them, but they don't really know what it is, or how to know what it is, or how to get there? So if you are that person and you feel like, yes, I want this trigger, I want to understand more, I want to know more, I want to change, I want to become a better version of who I am. And I know I'm here to be a better version of who I am, or I know I'm here for a very specific reason. I just cannot point it out. If you are that person, then I here think that this invitation will work for you. And this invitation will be something that you will take on board. So my invitation to you is, if you are that person and you're a little bit confused, or maybe you don't know where exactly you are, and you think that I might be able to shed a light on that specific part of your life, or that specific change that you are trying to make in your life, please let me know in the comments below. Let's write knowing in the comments below if you want to really know where you are, where you want to be, and how you can dig deep inside to understand what is stopping you, or what is not letting you move forward. So just write knowing in capitals underneath this, and I will make sure I'll get in touch with you. You can even get on a call with me. We can just have a quick call together. I will understand where you are and what are the things that are hindering you, or possibly completely stopping you. Or even if you don't really know what could be happening, maybe together, if we can talk, I can shed a light on things. You could tell me more. And if I think I can help you, then I will tell you how working with me will look like. And from there, we will figure things out. So if this is you and you want me to get in touch with you, type knowing in the comments below and I will message you on Messenger. I can send you the link for our call and we will take it from there. And with that, I want to tell you two things. First of all, I want to apologize for last week because I had lost my voice. And as you can see, this is a big topic, so I needed my voice really. And also, I want to apologize for my dog. I hope he didn't bother you much. I mean, it's good he's around, you know, he keeps me alert. And with that, I'm going to say ciao, ciao, and I will see you next week. Ciao, ciao.